A former sheriff's deputy serving time for murdering a woman in her Illinois home has died in prison. On Sunday, Sean Grayson's lawyer confirmed the 32-year-old's death. Grayson was serving a 20-year sentence after a jury found him guilty of killing Sonia Massey back in 2024.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer, and this is the rebuttal presented by Chapter. If you need help figuring out Medicare, call Chapter. They're honest, independent, salaried advisors offering free guidance, and people who switched last year saved an average of $1,100. Call the number on the screen and see if you can save some money. Now, let's get into this week's updates. Obviously, most of you have heard by now that the person who murdered Sonia Massey in Illinois, former Sangamon County Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson, has died while serving a very short portion of his 20-year prison sentence. Now, it was pretty much known, or at least it was the argument that they advanced forward in attempting to get him early medical release from the sentence just a couple weeks ago, that he was not expected to live another 18 months. Now, they're being pretty hush-hush on the details, so it's unclear whether he ultimately succumbed to some ancillary cause related to the cancer, or whether he took his own life, or whether he died from something else. We don't know. The Illinois Department of Correction would not comment on cause of death or anything like that. The only thing they would say was that he did die while in custody in their prison system. So, you know, this is a bittersweet moment, I'm sure, for the family, specifically Sonia's father, James Wilburn, who has been gracious enough to reach out to me in the comments and show support for us doing the videos and that kind of thing. I have a thing that happens to me where I take my hands off the situation when a person passes away, because I feel like, when they leave this life, their ultimate consequences have to do with their relationship with their creator, or whatever they spent their life doing. I have my opinions about Sean Grayson. My opinions mattered to the extent that they matter at all. They mattered for the purposes of him being held accountable for the crimes that he committed. And that has, to the extent possible, happened. I thought he should have got a life sentence. It turns out he did get a life sentence because his life was very short. Obviously, I think that, Sean Grayson probably has people who love and care for him. They obviously didn't sign up for this. They didn't likely think that their lives were going to be thrust into chaos or anything like that, just because he was a police officer who was a tyrant, who didn't have any regard for anyone's life but his own. And I think that this is a display of how sometimes things work themselves out and are beyond our control, good, bad, or indifferent. But all the things I needed to say about Sean Grayson, I said in the process of trying to use the platform to hold him accountable. Nobody cares what I think about him in the afterlife. It says more about me talking shit about a dead guy than it does about him. So I'll neither mourn his death, nor will I trample on his grave. My thoughts and prayers still going out to Sonia Massey's family, because nothing that happens in the process of them dealing with her death will ever make them feel whole, or make them feel like they got justice, or make them feel like anything other than what happened, which is that their loved one was ripped away from them unnecessarily for really nothing, because 2 years later, this guy's dead anyway. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Grayson. No more taxpayer money going to fund Sean Grayson's treatment. No more taxpayer money going to fund housing, feeding, caring for Sean Grayson over the next 20 years. Those are my thoughts on it. Now, on to the next item on the docket, and that is, I have to admit, a bit of a surprising revelation in the Senatobia saga. I was watching some news coverage yesterday, and there was a story where the chief of police in Senatobia's text messages have been privately leaked to a Mississippi news outlet. That'd be Harold Vanderford. That's the chief of police that they installed that was alleged to be an improvement over chicken shit Richard Chandler, the former chief who we helped get fired last summer. And so I was surprised by this because let's look at this picture of Harold Vanderford. He certainly seems like just a sort of a nice old kind of guy. You wouldn't expect to learn these revelations, but we're going to go through the Mississippi Today report and look at what they have to say. This is unbelievable in light of what happened. If you're not familiar with the case, we had a Senatobia, Mississippi police officer named Sergeant Hunter Foster, who shot and killed a 1-year-old baby named Cohen Wiley in the process of investigating a shoplifting incident that nobody really knows whether or not it was a shoplifting incident. Nothing. They've been absolutely squeaky tight on the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation releasing any findings. And my suspicion is, like everyone else's suspicion, that they don't have any justification and it's going to be really bad. But what I didn't expect was to see this sort of stuff come out of this investigation. So let's look at what the Mississippi Today folks say. The title is Police Chief at Senatobia Regularly Used Racial Slurs, Private Text Messages Reveal. And it says text exchanges obtained by Mississippi Today and the New York Times show troubling messages sent by the chief of a Mississippi police department facing an uproar over the fatal shooting of a 1-year-old boy in June. So last year, the city's elected alderman had forced out its previous police chief after a string of controversies, including an incident in which one of his officers had arrested a 10-year-old black boy who had urinated in public. But the new police chief, brought in last fall for his firm, fair, and focused leadership style, routinely used racist slurs in private text conversations with a colleague even after he was appointed. In one text, the chief, Harold Vanderford, described having a racist moment. In another, he wrote that he almost beat an N-word and white woman's ass a few minutes ago. He doesn't really look like a tough guy, so I don't know why he thinks he's beating people up. But either way, he's probably one of those guys that, that have never been in a fight in their life, and but they just see red, and they're convinced that that's going to do what needs to be done. But Vanderford used the racial slur, spelled various ways, more than a dozen times in a series of 10 text conversations dating back to last summer and continuing after he became chief. The texts were provided to reporters by the person who had received them, who said they came from Chief Vanderford. 3 other acquaintances confirmed that the phone number associated with the messages belonged to the chief. 3 months before the Walmart shooting, Vanderford texted a colleague to lament the Mississippi State University's performance in a college sporting event, referring to a player using a racist slur. In at least 2 instances in April, Chief Vanderford used the slur to refer to himself or his white friend, text messages showed. On another occasion, he texted that he was drunk and using the word loudly. Another time, he said he had screamed the slur 15 times. He texted that he hoped he was loud enough that his neighbors heard him. On Thanksgiving Day, the chief texted that he just had a racist moment on Goodman Road, a street in South Haven, Mississippi. Vanderford did not respond to phone and email messages left by reporters or notes left at his home and the police station. The mayor of Senatobia, Greg Graves, did not respond to a request for comment. Well, I wonder why. And here we have a statement from Charles Taylor, the executive director of the Mississippi chapter of the NAACP. He says it is completely unacceptable for any law enforcement in Mississippi to use racial slurs, whether in private or in public, because no official can protect and serve a community while harboring hatred toward its people. And it says here, when he took over the department, Chief Vanderford, a 60-year-old native of Greenville and 29-year veteran of law enforcement, vowed his tenure would focus on reestablishing and solidifying trust with the community. Then in June, his officers confronted Valencia Wiley and Latoya Farrell after they were accused by people in a Walmart of stealing baby clothes and a pack of diapers. The pair got into a vehicle and officers surrounded them with raised guns. Wiley, who was in the passenger seat holding her son, said that as they drove away, she lifted up the boy in an effort to make sure officers saw him. Then she heard 3 or 4 shots. According to a statement released the day of the incident by the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, which is investigating the shooting, officers had attempted to stop the car, but the driver drove in the direction of the officers, almost striking one, which we've basically gone through and called complete bullshit on that theory through the autopsy results that, by the way, Ben Crump had to get independently because the MBI wouldn't release it, and then our previous sort of examination analysis of the video. I'll leave the previous coverage of that shooting and the analysis and breakdown of the available video, which isn't much, in a link in the description, so you can check that out if you're not familiar. But that is, I think, a shocking revelation from Senatobia. I was expecting the chief to be sort of like a dippity-doo that didn't really understand what was going on, and kind of like a useless doofus just based on the way he looked, but I wasn't expecting him to be closeted racist guy. So I don't know. I've been doing this for 2.5 years now, and it is consistently true. Anytime I feature a black victim of police brutality or prominently display a black person on the thumbnail or anything, the racists just come out of the woodwork. It's unbelievable. I have to block more people for racist comments and do more community moderation in videos that involve black victims of police brutality than anywhere else. I'm not a statistician. I don't know what that means, but I know it is a glaring reality from the perspective of a content creator that racism still exists in America, and it is most prominently featured where there are no consequences on the internet. But on to the last item on the docket, and that is Officer Robert Parks from the Baltimore City Police Department was convicted of assault in the case that we covered last November. If you don't remember, Robert Parks was a City of Baltimore police officer who had run into somebody on his beat that he thought had a warrant. He tried to get the person to come over and talk to him. The person wouldn't. And so Robert Parks, like a psychopath, started chasing the guy through alleys and fields and that kind of thing, attempting to, or at least appearing to attempt to run over him with his car. Now, he was charged with attempted murder by the prosecutor, and I talked about that at length. I basically said I thought it would be a tough hill to climb in order to prove the specific intent required to find someone guilty of second-degree murder. Mr. Parks, as the trend we've seen multiple times lately with officers being charged and going to trial, opted for a bench trial, probably because he felt like he had a better chance with a judge who was bound by the legal ramifications and how those interact with the merits of the case, because a jury can kind of do what they want through jury nullification. And in a place like Baltimore, there's a good chance that the jury might want to convict you even if the legal elements aren't met. A judge will generally not do that. And so I feel like Mr. Parks took his chance, probably made the right decision, but the judge in that case did find him guilty, and the City of Baltimore has since fired him. So let's look at the news story related to that case so we can get the update.
10 months later, and the Baltimore police officer who went viral in that video where we can see him driving his cruiser towards a man has been found guilty by a judge on misdemeanor charges. That is Baltimore police officer Robert Parks that we're referring to, and he was found guilty on some charges, not guilty on others. So that is why this is a split verdict, and it's a bench trial. I want to point that out once again, meaning a judge comes to a decision on the verdict in the charges, not a jury. Judge Dana Middleton found Parks not guilty of second-degree attempted murder and first-degree assault, but she did find him guilty of second-degree assault, reckless driving, and then 3 counts of misconduct in office. And we did get a video of Parks walking out of the courthouse after that verdict was read there with his wife. We know that the judge says Parks used his cruiser to chase a man who was on foot. She called it unreasonable and not legally justified. She says the video shows Parks hitting the man with his cruiser, and because of the extent of the injury, because it wasn't a major injury, the judge ruled that second-degree assault guilty. As for the misconduct in office, he was found guilty on 3 counts, which are essentially like subcategories that fall under the charge of misconduct in office. So for 1 count, she said he failed to abide by police policy. Another count, he acted corruptly. And the 3rd count, he violated 1 or more transportation laws, and she used the example of him driving on the sidewalk for that one. So we know that Parks will now remain on home detention until his sentencing, which is slated for January January 12th. That could change. It all depends, but he does have 30 days to request an appeal. Live from downtown, Tori Yorgi, WBAL-TV 11 News.
All right, so the Baltimore Police Department terminates Officer Robert Parks. They put out a statement with the city of Baltimore. The Baltimore Police Department has terminated Officer Robert Parks following his convictions in the October 28, 2025 incident involving Parks and a civilian, and in accordance with Maryland law. Parks was found guilty of second-degree assault, 3 counts of misconduct while in office, and reckless driving. He was previously suspended without pay while the department subsequently conducted its own administrative review during the criminal proceedings. From the moment we became aware of this incident, I made it clear that what we saw was disturbing and the conduct was not consistent with our standards or the expectations we have for our officers, said Police Commissioner Richard Worley. Today's termination reflects our commitment to accountability and to ensuring that the men and women who serve the city uphold the law, our policies, and the trust placed in them by the community. We will continue to hold our officers accountable when their actions fall short of those standards. BPD officers take an oath to protect the residents of our city, and this individual clearly failed to live up to that oath, said Mayor Brandon M. Scott. As always, we will not hesitate to hold anyone accountable who endangers the safety of our communities, especially those sworn to protect them. I want to thank both the police department and the state's attorney's office for their work on this case and reiterate our shared commitment to constitutional policing and continued trust building between BPD officers and our residents. BPD remains committed to transparency, accountability, and maintaining the highest standards of conduct for its members. Well, my guess is they have a pretty strong police union and they couldn't fire him until he was convicted. But the misconduct in office charge is the one that really is, the assault you can get past, the reckless driving you can obviously get past, but the misconduct while in office is a charge that every defense attorney that ever sees any case his name's on is going to foam at the mouth over this and bring it up. He's basically burned as a credible witness to the extent he ever exists. Look, you lose your credible witness status when you hop out of the car with your sunglasses on backwards like a douche canoe. But nevertheless, this is the way things work in our world. So I am thankful that they terminated him. I don't think they had really any other choice. But look, thankfully, there'll probably be a civil suit over this. There will probably be a payout. Thankfully, the people of Baltimore and the taxpayers in that area won't have to worry about paying him anymore or paying his pension or his future salary or any of his benefits. So that's the best news we could probably get out of this. Plus, again, we're seeing these guys convicted of the things they're charged with, which is an advance, a small step in the right direction. So we'll see what the future holds. I think that it is going to be an absolute melee over the next 5 years when it comes to police officers being charged and convicted of crimes. And I will say this, I'm going to do a video on the flock situation very soon, but this flock stuff is freaking wild. There are so many contradictions in the way that certain communities look at flock relative to how they view law enforcement, and the coverage that we offer on it. It'll be sometime in the next week or two. Will be all encompassing to take a look at all those different layers and viewpoints, just to sort of point out some of the hypocrisy, some of the nuance, some of the absolute naivety associated with law enforcement. But I'll just say this, and this will be the central theme. I don't like the cameras, but it's really not about the cameras for me. It's that if the last 20 years of law enforcement has told us anything at all, it is that the people that you think you can trust are not people you can trust. And it is not about the flock cameras for me, or the device or the tech. You can implement that and do all kinds of stuff. You can't trust the people that you're giving unbridled, unlimited, unfettered access to. And we are seeing that unfold in front of our very eyes. So more to come on that. I know you guys will enjoy that, because I've been getting requests for flock coverage for months. I just haven't found the right case, but I have it now. I'm ready. We're going to do it in the next couple weeks. So anyway, thank you guys for sticking it out. I know it's been a little bit since we did a rebuttal. I'm going to try to do probably one twice a month, every other week, maybe, whenever updates happen. So we'll have another one and we'll do the updates and get everything rolling. So appreciate you guys taking the time to watch it. I'd like to invite you to check us out on all the socials. I'll put up a QR code here for you to scan with your phone. That'll take you to the Linktree site where you can check us out on YouTube and Facebook and Substack. I hope to see you on one of those platforms in the very near future. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on the video. Check out some of the other videos on the channel. Leave a comment on there as well. Give me some grace, because some of them are old and hell, I don't even remember half of what I said. But anyway, Till I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.